start tonight's show with the big news out of Washington on the shutdown. By the way, tonight's show will be brought to you by I Can't F***ing Believe It. I can't f***ing believe it. For when the I can't believe it Edvard Munch scream emoji doesn't quite convey how much you cannot f***ing believe it. And what, you ask, is it? Well, it is the Democrats. You remember the Democrats. They shut down the government last month for a very particular reason.
Any deal must secure the extension of the ACA tax credits.
This is about my party saying enough is enough.
Democrats will not back down.
Do not stop fighting.
We're in this fight until we win this fight because we know we're on the right side of this fight.
It's literally life or death. So Democrats have 3 words for this. No way.
Well, funny story. Yes, Charles Schumer's 3 words were no match for these 5 other words.
Democrats cave on the shutdown.
Excuse me? Cave on the shutdown? Huh? Not this forceful, young, authentic Democratic Party that hangs out down by the river. And curses in what appears to be a cerulean blue blazer. And I say, no f***ing way. No, they f***ing caved on the shutdown. Not even a full week removed from the best election night results they've had in years. 7 Democratic senators voted with their Republican counterparts to end the shutdown and reopen the government. And did they get their extended health care subsidies?
Democrats wanted the deal to include extending subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Instead, they got a promise to vote on it at a later date.
I cannot believe it! You had the wind at your back. Election victories all over the country. The new Sydney Sweeney movie, box office bupkis. Apparently, her new MAGA fan base didn't show up in droves to see a biopic about a lesbian professional boxer who overcomes domestic violence to live her truth. Who could have seen that coming? Democrats, you sold out the entire shutdown not to get what you wanted, but for a promise to not get what you wanted later. Where in the art of war? Hold on. Where in the art of, okay, here it is. I got it. Sun Tzu said, never press your advantage. It's unseemly. Fighting's hard. How about a snack? I can't believe it. And by the way, what good does a promise of a Senate vote even do for you, Democrats? You don't control the Senate. Do you even know how this shit works? Let's just say, for schnicks, that you managed to win a vote in the Senate, which you haven't done all year. Do you know what happens then? Give me. Hold on 1 second. Give me the thing. I want to show you.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Well, I can't stay mad at Bill. But the point is this. Let's just say, you pass a bill out of the Senate that you don't control as Democrats. Guess what happens then?
Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
You go to the House of Representatives. But they don't vote on it because Democrats don't control the House of Representatives either. But let's live in your 8-senator fantasy land, and you do. Let's say you somehow convince old Cowlick McBabyface to hold that House of Representatives vote, and you win that one as well. Guess what happens then?
Well, then I'm off to the White House where I wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign.
The president. Yeah. You get it past the Senate, you get it past the House, and then the president of the United States. Right? You remember him? This guy?
Obamacare is a disaster.
Yeah, that f***ing guy. The Obamacare is a disaster guy. The guy who spent the weekend posting about how Barack Obama is collecting millions of dollars in royalties from Obamacare, a fact that Trump picked up from an 8-year-old satire article. Democrats, you gave up the only leverage you had without getting commitments from Trump or Mike Johnson. I cannot f***ing believe it. Surely someone in the party understands that offering a vote in the Senate without a commitment that it would pass or that the House would even take it up is an empty offer.
Offering a vote in the Senate without a commitment that it would pass, without a commitment that the House would even take it up is an empty offer.
This guy gets it. Tim Kaine. You don't see him as one of the 8 voting yes.
Virginia Senator Tim Kaine was a yes.
I can't believe it! And for what? There's got to be someone in this party who understands what's at stake with these expiring subsidies. Senator Jeanne Shaheen.
I had a meeting with some constituents last Friday when I was in New Hampshire. One was a man. He said, if I didn't have that insurance through the Affordable Care Act, I would not have gone to the doctor. I would not have gotten my cancer treated, and I would be dead by now. That's what this fight is about.
Now that's somebody who's not going to roll over. That is somebody who has the moral clarity, and she voted yes, didn't she?
Jeanne Shaheen decided to vote yes.
That was the most weirdly coordinated boo. Not only was it coordinated, here was the most beautiful part about that boo. It started at a low timbre, and then it grew, and then a staccato. Jeanne Shaheen. And you know what she did that's almost worse? After a month of standing on principle because of the needs of her constituents, she now uses those same constituents as her cover for cowardice.
When I talk to my constituents in New Hampshire, you know what they say to me? They say, why can't you all just work together to address the problems that are facing this country?
Really? Even the cancer guy? He's saying that now? That's not what he was saying before, but now he's like, look, what I said earlier about wanting to live, I didn't know that the alternative was a spirit of bipartisan cooperation. I was just thinking, I want lungs. And by the way, doing exactly what the Republicans wanted isn't working together. That's not working together. That's just doing what, Mr. Sawyer and I worked together to paint this fence. No! He made you f***ing paint it! And then he just jumped in at the end and was like, we can't free Jim, it's not bipartisan. Yeah, that's what happened. You don't remember the book? That's what happened. I didn't remember it either, but one of the writers. And you might be wondering to yourself there, well, where's the Democratic leader? Mr. No way Chuck Schumer during all this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he is on your social feeds. Glasses in the ready position, putting on a show.
Democrats have been fighting to get the Senate to address the health care crisis. This bill does nothing to ensure that that crisis is addressed. I am voting no, and I will keep fighting.
I don't believe this. And I mean that now literally. Chuck Schumer, your protestation be not believable. Look, either all 8 senators who voted to capitulate coincidentally are not up for re-election in 2026, or Chuck Schumer worked behind the scenes to give into the Republicans while still protecting vulnerable Democrats, including himself. You know, that's right. You know, humorously, after the election, I mentioned to a couple of political analysts in the afterglow, post-coital, about how the Democrats were going to squander their hard-earned electoral victories.
And I guess the question next for both of you is, how will they squander it? How? How will they piss this away?
You know, the only thing I love more than seeing my face on TV is seeing it on a webcam with no filters. Talk about needing health care, my God. Is jaundice contagious? What the? But it's a fair question. How would Democrats piss this away? Apparently, they did it something like this. Acting. This is a world-class collapse by Democrats. It would be like being up 10 points with 3 minutes left to go in a game and still finding a way to miraculously lose it for the 4th time in just 1 month. For those of you who don't follow the New York Football Giants, because let's say you value your time on this earth, this is a football team that on 3 separate occasions this season has blown games that, statistically speaking, based on their sizable leads vis-a-vis the amount of time left in the athletic contest, they had a 95 to 99% chance of winning. I refer you, for instance, to this win probability chart from Sunday's game against the Chicago Bears, where you can see the New York Giants' chance of victory climbs to 97% before they trip on their own dicks and fall down a flight of stairs. And again, I don't want to get too inside football here, but you're not supposed to do that. I have not had a good weekend. Now, for those of you who believe that professional sports and politics are an inept comparative, not only did the Democrats and Giants lose in the same, I can't f***ing believe it manner, they sound the same doing it.
It's natural and appropriate to feel deep disappointment.
Disappointing outcome.
It was not the result many of us wanted.
Want to get the results that you hoped for and came up short?
It never feels good to come up short.
We came up short, and that was a tough one.
You learn and you prepare to do better in the future.
You're always learning and trying to be better. Well, not enough wins. Not enough wins.
We will win. We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Inspired yet? So please, Democrats, I do not understand. Explain this to me like I eat with my feet. Why?
How do you explain, though, to your constituents why it was worth it to put up this fight for so long when, in the end, you did not get your key demand?
Because it wasn't working.
First of all, how are we being ruled by the only old people who don't stubbornly cling to shit whether it's working or not? That's the whole point of being an old person. What kind of an old person are you? Well, maybe it is time to give up my driver's license. I mean, to be fair, I am a menace. And second of all, it was working. It was working. Never has the gap between this administration and the people it claims to serve been so disgustingly visible than during this shutdown. This week, while the Trump administration was at the Supreme Court demanding that the court let them withhold food stamps from hungry Americans, Trump himself was at Mar-a-Lago with an all-you-can-eat shrimp and synchronized swimming buffet while the president of Argentina danced the night away, secure in the $20 billion we recently gave his country. And I gotta say, for $20 billion, you'd think he'd dance better than leprechaun jerking elephants. By the way, apologies to the elephant. I am not trying to disrespect. Probably an elephant watching that going like, whoa. What kind of an elephant, Dick? Point is this, don't get distracted. Americans were finally seeing the gap between how Donald Trump bends reality and actual day-to-day reality. This shutdown has focused America's attention away from his gift for distraction and onto stark actualities and seeing through, many for the first time, his bald-faced lying.
Can you just answer that question that tariffs have led to inflation? They have led to an increase in cost of living for most Americans.
We have no inflation. We have no inflation.
Except that we have inflation. And normally, we have no inflation goes the way of, they're eating the cats and dogs, and I'm suing Rupert Murdoch because I'm not on the Epstein list, and all of the other lies that Trump deploys in his reality distortion arsenal. But miracle of miracles during the shutdown. The old songs ain't hitting like they used to.
Football fans loudly booed as Trump was shown on the Jumbotron during halftime at the Lions and Commanders game.
Do you know how unpopular you have to be booed by football fans while swearing in troops? And by the way, not just any football fans who still use the term Redskins. And not even with respect to the team, just casually. This is what the Democrats have squandered. A country finally shaking off Trump's Jedi mind tricks and saying, no, these are the droids we're looking for. And instead of pressing that advantage, perhaps neutralizing Trump's reality distortion field for good, the Democrats just suddenly went, droids? I guess we aren't looking for those droids. But you'll help us find them later, right? They squandered their leverage, sapped their voters' enthusiasm, and snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And it's just too bad that we are now stuck with these leaders that we have on that side, and there's nothing that can be done about it.
This just in, the New York Giants have just fired head coach Brian Daboll.
So you're saying there's a chance?
We all know the economy isn't great right now. Rent is too expensive, grocery prices are too high, people are fistfighting in Starbucks over bear cups. That one isn't really about the economy, but I just like watching middle-aged people fight over cups. That bear has turned Starbucks into Waffle House. The point is, it's rough out there. So no wonder last week Democrats won a ton of elections by running on affordability. And that sent President Trump into a little bit of a tailspin.
You know, they have this new word called affordability, and they don't talk about it enough. We are the ones that have done great on affordability. They've done horribly on affordability. Affordability, they call it, was a con job by the Democrats. We are the victors on affordability. I don't want to hear about the affordability because right now we're much less.
Damn, that man just went through the 5 stages of affordability. And I get why he feels threatened, because normally he can just lie. But you're the president, and people know if they ate or not. It doesn't matter how many hats they buy or how many photos of him and Epstein they pretend they didn't see. You can hear your stomach growling when you're hungry. They're not going to be like, that must be an illegal immigrant in my stomach stirring up trouble. Get out of there, immigrant. Get out of there. But you know what? If Trump wants to focus on affordability right now, that's great. There's a lot of stuff that's too expensive. For example, houses. No one can afford a home. Everybody keeps waiting for them to show up on Prime Day, but it never happens. So maybe Trump could do something to bring down mortgages.
The Trump administration moves forward with a plan to introduce 50-year mortgages.
Or you can make them much longer, you know, because you know where we'll all be in 50 years, dead, you know what I mean? This seems like a bad idea, and if black people could get loans, I'd be worried. But hey, maybe I'm just hating, all right? I mean, how much would a 50-year mortgage save people?
Take a $400,000 loan at 6% interest. Under a 30-year mortgage, the monthly payment would be just shy of $2,400. Under a 50-year loan, it drops to just over $2,100, a savings of nearly $300 a month.
Oh, boy! $300 a month? See, it's not a stupid idea. You know what? I'm going to apply for a 50-year mortgage right now.
But over time, that savings is erased by a much larger interest bill, because while the total interest on a 30-year loan would be about $463,000, the interest on a 50-year loan would total more than $860,000.
Signed, Ronnie Chang. So you're saying that after interest, a $400,000 mortgage is going to cost me $1.3 million. That is the opposite of affordability. This man is creating generational debt. They're going to be fighting to get out of grandma's will. Like, grandkids will be like, I barely knew her, all right? I wouldn't even hug her at Christmas because her skin was too loose. But look, forget mortgages, because Trump's got other plans to make sure you afford whatever you want. You're going to be exhausted from affording. You're going to afford everywhere.
President Trump now says he wants to send out $2,000 rebate checks paid for by his tariffs.
One of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000.
Wait a second. Okay. Trump's making everybody pay tariffs, but only poor people are getting the $2,000 checks. So he's just redistributing taxes from rich people to poor people. Did Donald Trump just stupid himself into socialism? I mean, you're doing a great job, Mr. President. We always believed. Everybody shut up, all right? Don't say a word. Let this play out, and we'll have free health care by Christmas, all right? Nobody call him Mango Mamdani, all right? Great idea, Mr. President. Very capitalism. But hey, you know what? $2,000 would help a lot of people. If the money's there, the money's there.
If the president sent $2,000 checks to the 150 million people who make less than $100,000, it would cost $300 billion, even though the tariffs are only projected to raise about $217 annually.
The money's not there. And now I'm starting to get worried because that's $83 billion short. And I'm not saying Trump is the worst president of all time. I'm just saying I've never met anyone who was $83 billion short. And by the way, he's only $83 billion short if he hasn't promised the tariff money to anybody else.
We're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers. The big thing we want to do is pay down debt.
The president tapped into tariff revenue to keep WIC money for women and infants and children going out the door.
Tariffs is one of the reasons why we have the money in the Treasury to actually be able to pay our troops.
I think the tariffs will be enough to cut all of the income tax.
Donald Trump's suggesting that tariffs could fund the country's child care needs.
That'll easily pay for the Golden Dome, and we'll have a lot of money left over.
Money left over? The money that never existed is already spent. And you're running around the country promising money you do not have to multiple people many times over. Every week I'm at this desk, I say this, and I guess I'll have to say this for 3 more years, but this is crackhead behavior. Please, for America's sake, you can't go down this path. This is going to end up with you behind the White House with China doing unspeakable things for money. Please reassure us when you are promising money to people, you have an idea where it's coming from.
You put out a Truth Social post earlier today.
I did.
Where you blasted the air traffic controllers who had not shown up for work and offered potentially a bonus of $10,000 for those who have worked despite the shutdown.
I'm sending them a $10,000 bonus.
Where's that money coming from?
I don't know. I'll get it from someplace.
Somebody please hide the dumpster behind the White House. Donald Trump's been having a pretty good time. The shutdown ended, he didn't have to concede anything, and he didn't even have to give poor people health care, his favorite kind of deal. No? Everything's coming up Trump. Nothing can stop the Trump train now.
Breaking news, convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein mentioned Donald Trump by name several times in private emails.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Trump train is experiencing a slight delay. There is an Epstein file on the tracks. We should be moving as soon as we get that cleared. But fine, Epstein mentioned Trump in an email. That doesn't mean he did anything wrong. Maybe the email was about how Trump never comes to his sex parties. Rude. I say this because I'm an American, living in America. And no matter what party you're in or who you voted for, it would be better for all of us, as a general matter, if we do not have a sexual predator as president. Because it would... It would make our country look so bad You know, how embarrassing would that be if we, America, went from being the shining city on a hill to not being allowed within 1,000 feet of the hill? So let's just stay calm and see what the email said before we jump to conclusions.
These are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011. And in this email, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump."
Okay, that doesn't sound good at all. But, you know, that dog hasn't barked could mean a lot of things. Maybe Trump's feet hurt, all right? So that's all the news in terms of bombshell emails? It's not a lot. It's not like there's an email with a journalist where he's strategizing how to blackmail Trump.
Michael Wolff says, quote, "I hear that CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt."
I like that Epstein was like, yeah, that seems like a lot of work. I'm probably just going to kill myself. And did he really have leverage anyway? All I've seen so far is Epstein and Maxwell saying Trump is a dog that hasn't barked. We don't know what he didn't bark about. Maybe the rest of that email clears him.
I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Unnamed victims spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. According to the released emails, Maxwell responds, "I have been thinking about that."
Oh, shit. I think the Trump train crashed. Because this isn't just not a good look. It's one of the worst looks I've ever seen. Like, I'm talking Adrian Brody in a Rasta wig bad. Also, why was Jeffrey Epstein writing about his crimes in emails? That's so dumb. He's firing off his BlackBerry to Ghislaine like, "Hey, girl, following up about the sex crimes. Hope Trump doesn't snitch about the sex crimes. Hit me up if you want sex crimes this weekend." Say what you want about Donald Trump, but he knows better than to put incriminating shit in emails. He does it in person, or on the phone, or reportedly inside a sketch of a naked lady. But never email. Trump has to be pretty unhappy. That new evidence is coming out because he's worked so hard to prevent that. Remember, Ghislaine Maxwell got moved into a country club prison after she gave an interview saying this.
"I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects."
Well, no, that's something. And she said it British, so you gotta believe her. I don't know what she's got on him, but it must be bad because she didn't even exonerate him. She didn't say Trump is innocent. All she said was, "I didn't see him do anything. I also didn't see him do anything. What do I get?" That's all she said, and now she's being treated like royalty.
A whistleblower alleges that Ghislaine Maxwell is getting special treatment in prison.
Maxwell's meals have been customized. They are delivered directly to her cell. She is personally escorted to the exercise area after hours and gets to enjoy recreation time in staff-only areas. When she wants private meetings, the warden personally arranges them, providing an assortment of snacks and refreshments for her guests.
I mean, she gets to hang out in the staff areas. Can you imagine being a prison guard who can't watch TV in the break room because Ghislaine taking a nap on the couch? But this is truly insane. There is not another convicted child sex trafficker in the world who would get this kind of treatment in prison. There's actually no way within the confines of prison that her life could get any better.
Add to that one more perk for the convicted sex offender: puppy time. According to the whistleblower, an inmate who trains puppies to become service dogs was instructed to provide one to Maxwell for a time so she could play with the puppy.
Do not give that dog to Ghislaine. That's not what they meant when they said take the dog to the groomer. So look, I don't know what Ghislaine knows about whatever Donald Trump did. All I know is that every detail that comes out makes him look more and more suspicious. And if you thought this couldn't look any worse, wait till you see the birthday card that Trump sent that dog. Yesterday, the Epstein story exploded back into the national conversation when House Democrats released 3 emails that Jeffrey Epstein wrote about his BFF, Donald Trump. But Donald Trump has the entirety of the GOP behind him. And you know these world-class strategists have a plan for getting this story off the front page.
As part of the Republican response to the selective and limited release of emails by the Democrats, Republicans stepped up and put out 20,000 pages of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents.
Oh, no! This is the downside of your people really having your back, because they were basically like, he got nothing to hide. Here's 20,000 more emails. Don't you people know anything about a cover-up? This is like trying to hide pissing yourself by shitting yourself. Oh. Trump's people spent a year saying there are no Epstein files. Now there's 20,000 pages, and those still aren't the files. What happened? There's now more pages of Trump-Epstein lore than Batman and Superman crossover. And look, these 20,000 pages weren't all about crimes. A lot of it was just weird bro shit about women that they dated.
Epstein says in these emails that he could produce photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen. Epstein claims that he and Trump had dated the same woman back in the 1990s, saying, my 20-year-old girlfriend in 1993 that after 2 years I gave to Donald.
Man, I'm glad Hillary killed that guy. Because I can't imagine a worse way to break up with someone than setting them up with Donald Trump. If someone broke up with me and they were like, I don't deserve you, but you know who does? And then Donald Trump walked in, I'd be like, damn, I didn't know you hated me. And by the way, just as a side note, the woman people say Epstein might be referring to is a Norwegian cosmetics heiress whose name, and I am not making this up, is Selena Middlefart. And if you're watching this from Norway and you're like, it's Middlefart, that is basically what I just said. Now, she has denied that she ever dated either of them, which I get. But more importantly, how is Selena Middlefart a real name? It sounds like a bad spy name. Like if you were a spy and you broke into a super secret security office, and right after you grabbed the disc or whatever, you turn the corner, and then there's someone looking at you, and they say, who are you? And you haven't thought that far. And you almost say Selena Gomez, but you know that's not going to work. So you're like, Selena, and you get nervous when you're, trying to come up with a name and it makes you fart in the middle of your sentence. So you're like, Selena Middlefart. And then that guy is just like, oh, okay, do you know where the bathroom is? But these emails don't just show their friendship. They show their frenemyship. And after their bromance ended, Epstein really showed that hell hath no fury like a pedophile scorned.
He says Trump is borderline insane. He says Donald Trump is effing crazy. Maybe Donald Trump has early dementia. Rumler says Trump is so gross. And Epstein responds, worse in real life and up close.
Damn. A pedophile called you all that? That's wild. It would be like if the devil came out and said, y'all, Diddy gross, okay? We were alone for 5 minutes. He tried to kiss me. And when I pushed him away, he hit me with a water balloon full of baby oil. I don't even know what that's for. This is one of the many reasons being friends with a pedophile is a lose-lose situation. Because as a character witness, if they're like, this guy's disgusting and I'm a pedophile, that's bad. But on the flip side, if they're like, yeah, I know him, he's a pretty good hang, that's also horrible. It's why you should choose your friends wisely, because remember, if you do something embarrassing in front of a friend, that's a memory. But if they turn on you, it becomes ammo.
Epstein suggesting reporters ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused, he walked straight into the door.
There is no way this dude is Looney Tunes level horny. Like, you know, there's normal level perv, and then there's Kool-Aid Man level perv. Hey, Don, you want to see some girls in the pool? Oh, yeah. And look, also, I'm not saying Trump has a micro penis. But it's weird he got all horned up and his nose hit the glass first. So the GOP didn't do Trump any favors by releasing these emails. They basically saw his grease fire and said, let us add some water. And his supporters on TV aren't doing that much better.
This is obviously an attempt to smear the president by cherry picking.
This is just all for show.
A distraction. Just ridiculous.
The carnival showed
It's journalistically malpractice.
Why weren't they as concerned about Bill Clinton?
They love to create drama.
This whole Epstein files thing, a little bit played out.
Played out? You know shit's bad when the sensationalist media is like, you guys don't want to hear about the international island sex scandal. Let's talk about budgetary cuts. Let's get nasty. Come on, guys, that's not going to work. If you want to downplay this story, you need a master, all right? Megyn Kelly, you're a master of spin. Show us what you got.
As for Epstein, he wasn't into, like, 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just, whatever, it's sick.
How the hell was Megyn Kelly ever an attorney? Your Honor, my client only engaged in diet pedophilia. Ma'am, everyone knows there's a big difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, but everyone also knows there is never a good reason to be talking about that difference.